Let's talk 135. 135 pounds is in a very unique spot right now. Look, Aljo has called out Peter Yan over the weekend. That one caught me off guard. And all he said is, if you want to get beat by the Funk Master a third time, come on, say my name and let's do it again. Now, I wanted to stop that right in his tracks. I just don't want to see that. And I'm not a hater. I believe the only fight I've ever hated on is watching Figueiredo and Moreno for the fifth time or however many we've seen it. And I'm alone. You guys love that fight. So many pushbacks. Chia, what are you doing? Don't take this from us. I didn't enjoy it. The fights were very interesting, but what have we seen it 3 times now? It's enough for me. I didn't like the buildup. I didn't like that these guys had a fight. That fight wasn't even a main event. Right? The first time they fought was a main event on free TV. The next 2 times they fought that were more strategically placed on paper, they weren't main events. I mean, why are you going to keep fighting a guy if you're not even a main event? You're not even the best fight on the card that night. You're going to tell me that this is the fight that you can just redo over and over? I'm going to push back. I am. And the same thing goes with Yan and Sterling. I don't think there was controversy in this last fight. And one person who talked about the fight was Big John McCarthy, who is a voice that everybody listens to. And if John says something, John can hurt people's feelings, and he doesn't know that. That would be the last thing he would intend to do, but he also doesn't know that he's looked at as a godfather in the sport. So when he shares his opinion, it will greatly affect the people who he said the opinion about. Now, I only bring that to you because he talked about Aljo versus Yan a week ago, but John came back. He said, you know what? I rewatched it. A week ago, I said there was absolutely no way that Sterling could have won the first round, and here's why. I've rewatched it. It's close. It is razor thin. And through the perspective and the lens of a judge and what a judge is instructed within that jurisdiction to look for, you could go either way. All right, great. But I do think that John, with the power that he has and how respected he is, I think is one of the reasons that Aljo said to Yan, come on, let's just do it again. And I'm not there. But before I can tell you I'm not there, what other options do I have? You must present me with multiple choice. It's got to be. It's one of those situations. Maybe I really do want to see Yan again in comparison to. Now, that's where I think you insert Henry Cejudo. Dana spoke about Cejudo over the weekend. Now, you must understand the strategy, okay? It takes 3 to make a fight. You got the red corner, the blue corner, and the promoter. Those are the 3 pieces that you have. The promoter over the weekend, Dana White, and I think he was speaking to TMZ. And Dana said, hey, look, this isn't how you get fight. Henry's retired. Henry told me that he's retired. He handed my belt back and never fought again. That's retired. Henry does understand our sport and our industry. I'm adding a couple of words here, but this is what Dana said. If he wants to fight or he wants to fight, he knows what he needs to do. Great. Stop right there, but it does sound like of the red corner, the blue corner, and the promoter, you don't have the promoter. Now, if you're Henry, you have to first assess, is the promoter playing chess with me here? Or can I take him at face value? Because if I take him at face value, I've got to put full direction onto the blue corner, who in this case is Sterling. Take everything off trying to talk Dana into it, put all my attention, put all my troops straight into Sterling. Get Sterling on board with the fight, then we come back and see the promoter again. That's the only angle that you can take if you take it for face value. Now, what's Henry going to do? Every character, this is Vince McMahon talking. Every character, every gimmick needs tweaked every 14 months. And it doesn't mean that you have to put a guy under a mask or a guy that's under a mask, you have to take the mask off. You do not have to do a 180, but it needs tweaked. Fine example, Chris Jericho, who is over as you can get, puts a scarf on and starts carrying out a pen with a pad of paper. He's making a list. And if you cross him, he's going to write your name on the list. It was very simple, but it worked. That would be a small tweak. Chris Jericho is still wrestling as Chris Jericho. When he comes out, it's the same music. It's the same guy, small tweak. There's the example that I'm going to give you. Hulk Hogan rips off the yellow shirt for 20 years. All of a sudden, he's ripping off a black and white shirt. Same thing, small tweak worked. Good box office business. Where does Henry go? Henry has adapted and embraced the king of cringe. I think that if Henry comes back at 135, Rob Font's been very quiet. Ricky Simone has been very quiet. I mean, I can't get a job for a guy who's not applying for the job. I just can't do it. So you got Yan. Allegedly, we got Henry. Right now, those are my options. So I'm looking at those 2 and going, fresh blood, get Henry in. Sugar Sean must have something coming up that I don't know about. Dominic Cruz is as good as any of them, isn't talking about it. Jose Aldo's got to be getting booked into it, right? I mean, do you see the situation that we're talking about? And so this does create a real opportunity for Henry, if this is what Henry wants to do. Henry was calling for fights for the last year after he retired, walked away, and was removed from the USADA testing pool. Call for fights all you want, you can't get one, right? There's rules, there's a system in place. Now he's back into the USADA pool, great. But what I'm speaking to is I think the King of Cringe still works. I would love a scenario where Henry comes out and he said, look, I've studied what's happened since I've gone. I will acknowledge that Aljo Sterling is the rightful interim champion, and I will give him a shot at the undisputed belt. Like, I could see that. As corny as it would be for most guys, it would be right on brand for Henry. I would like him to turn it up. The other side of the coin is Henry is somebody different now. Sure he is. Henry, underneath those fancy suits and that nice smile, is a dirty, rotten competitor, just like the rest of us. But Henry's also a father now. Henry's also married now. I mean, there are some pieces of the Cejudo story that has changed. He would not just be returning by example to get himself one more win or one more experience or one more training camp or one more time in front of you guys. That would be compelling. That would be attractive and seductive for sure, but he's also going to be fighting for his family. He's trying to set up college funds. He's trying to set up a future, right? I mean, it's a very real thing. So perhaps that's the direction that Henry goes. I'm talking about taking the character and tweaking it just slightly. And I do believe that Henry can command our attention just as well now as he could when he had the belt. I do believe that. But I think over a period of time, with everything being jokey, we're not sure if he's sincere. To make the same comments when you're in the testing pool with that same theme that you made when you were not eligible because you weren't in the pool, right? You see where it changes? So now you got to let the audience know, no, I'm serious. I'm back. I fully want Volkanovski. I will settle for what I have already done. Right? I mean, just tell the story. The truth will always set you free. That's the truth. Henry wants to do the champ business. He wants Volkanov. That is 100% true. Here's a former world champion who could qualify based on the paper, based on the resume, based on what he's already done, not to mention the landscape of the division right now for a title fight with Aljo. I believe that. But it's a scattergun, right? There's an old expression, if you chase two rabbits, you will catch none. So he's got to put his focus, he's got to go in one direction, and possibly the gimmick needs tweaked just a little bit. Henry's into having fun. He's into talking to you guys. He's into bringing his story out. He's into getting... I've never seen anybody go into the USADA testing pool that made headlines. I just haven't seen it. From fighting to junkie to mania to elbow to bjpenn.com, he goes into the USADA pool. They announced that? The only time you hear anything about USADA is when a guy gets flagged. So Henry has something special. He has a special ability to command this. If he wants the fight with Sterling, I think he just really needs to let us know. I think he needs to really let Sterling know. And I don't know that his promoter is fully closed off to that idea, but his promoter is not going to look like a fool by telling TMZ, yes, that's the fight I want to make, when he doesn't know he has full sincerity and commitment by his athlete, who in this case is Henry. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Everybody's right. The character is based on cringy. It's based on an elbow and a wink, but sometimes he's trying to be real serious. How do we know the difference? Look, this is Henry's plight. Henry's got to convince us. But I do think the time is right now, and I do think a world title fight is waiting for Henry. I'm light on the idea that it's at 45, and we haven't heard from Volkanovski. Volkanovski would have given it a blessing. It would have had a lot more power. I'm light on that. 135. Back for the championship that he never lost. That works. That's a headline.